Jack rode through the dusty trails, his mind racing. The more he thought about the flower Tala had given him, the more he regretted his casual response. He had been so used to receiving simple gifts from women, just tokens of affection with no deeper meaning, but this was something different. Something important. As he rode, the weight of his mistake pressed down on him. He had been ignorant of the Apache customs, too caught up in his own world to understand what was happening around him. The thought that he might have hurt Tala, that he might have rejected her offering without even realizing it, made his stomach churn. He didn't want to lose her. He didn't even fully understand why, but he knew he had to fix it. The sun was starting to set, casting a golden glow over the land as Jack approached the outskirts of the Apache camp. He had been told where to find her, but he wasn't sure what to expect. Would she even speak to him? Would she listen to his apology? Or would she dismiss him as just another outsider who didn't understand her world? As he neared the camp, Jack saw Tala by the fire. She was sitting alone, her long, dark hair cascading down her back, her eyes fixed on the flames. She looked peaceful, but there was something in her posture that told Jack she wasn't entirely at ease. Her shoulders were tense, her hands resting in her lap as if she were holding something inside. Jack's heart clenched at the sight. He had been the cause of that tension, and he wasn't sure how to fix it. He dismounted and approached her slowly, his boots crunching on the dirt beneath him. Tala didn't look up at first, but Jack could see her eyes flicker in his direction. He stopped a few feet away, not wanting to crowd her, but needing to speak. "Tala," he began, his voice soft but firm, "I need to apologize." She didn't respond at first, but Jack saw her hands tighten into fists. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before continuing. "I didn't understand," he said, his voice catching slightly. "I thought the flower was just a kind gesture, a gift. But now I know. I know it meant more. I'm sorry I didn't see that. I'm sorry if I hurt you by not recognizing what it meant." For a long moment there was silence between them, only the crackling of the fire breaking it. Jack couldn't read her expression, and that made him even more nervous. Tala was a woman of few words, and right now, it seemed like she wasn't sure what to say either. Finally, she looked up at him, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of uncertainty and something else. "Something deeper. You didn't know," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of sadness in it that made Jack feel like he had failed her again. "It's not your fault. You didn't understand our ways." Jack stepped closer, his heart pounding in his chest. "But I should have. I should have listened more. I should have learned more about you, about your people. I don't want to hurt you, Tala. I don't want to make you feel like I don't care." Tala looked down at the fire for a moment, her expression unreadable. "It's not just about the flower, Jack, it's about what it means, what it says about who we are and what we offer. It's about trust. And love." Jack swallowed hard. He hadn't expected her to explain so much, and it made his heart ache. He had been so focused on his own life, his own world, that he hadn't considered what it might mean to share a life with someone from a different culture, to truly understand someone. "I want to understand," Jack said quietly, his voice full of sincerity. "I want to understand you, Tala. I want to learn your ways. I want to be the man who can stand beside you, not just the one who takes your flower without seeing what it truly means." For a long time, Tala didn't say anything. Jack could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them both. He could feel his pulse quickening, his hope rising, but he didn't want to rush her. He didn't want to make any more mistakes. Finally, Tala spoke again. "It's not easy, Jack. You've lived your life your way, and I've lived mine. There's a difference between us that we can't ignore, but—" She hesitated, her eyes searching his. "But maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we can figure it out." Jack's heart leapt in his chest. He hadn't expected that. He hadn't expected Tala to be so open, so willing to take a chance on him. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm not asking for everything right away, but I want to try. I want to try with you, Tala." She nodded slowly, her gaze softening. "It will take time," she said. "It will take patience. But if you're willing to try, so am I." Jack smiled, the weight in his chest finally lifting. He didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. He was ready to take that step, to learn, to grow, and to be with Tala. No matter what challenges they faced, he would face them with her by his side. As the night wore on, Jack and Tala sat together by the fire, the tension between them slowly dissolving. They didn't speak much after that, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was a shared silence, one that spoke of understanding and of new beginnings. The fire crackled between them, and the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if even the heavens themselves were cheering them on. And for the first time in his life, Jack Turner didn't feel like he was just a cowboy riding from place to place. He felt like he was home. Home in a way he had never imagined. Home with Tala, the Apache girl who had shown him a world he had never known, and who had, in her quiet way, offered him the greatest gift of all, a chance to love and be loved in return. Jack Turner had always been a cowboy, a man whose life was tied to the open plains. The Wild West was where he felt free, the wind in his face, the horizon stretching endlessly before him. He wasn't looking for anything more, no commitments, no ties. Life on the ranch had always been enough. But everything changed when he rode into a small frontier town at the edge of Apache lands. The town was small, barely more than a handful of houses and a saloon. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else. But the town had something special, a quiet kind of peace, something Jack didn't even know he was looking for. He had been moving from one place to another, always seeking but never finding that feeling of belonging. Here in this little town, Jack thought he could settle for a while. Maybe it was the fresh air, or maybe the way the people greeted him as if he were already one of them. Whatever it was, he stayed. Among the town's residents, there was a girl who caught his eye, Tala. She was different from the other women Jack had met. She had a quiet strength about her, and something in her dark eyes spoke of deep thoughts and untold stories. She wasn't like the women in town who fawned over him or tried to win his attention. She was calm, distant, and Jack couldn't help but wonder about her. Tala wasn't just any girl. She was the daughter of a respected Apache leader, a woman who had grown up among her people, learning their ways and traditions. Despite the settlers and cowboys that passed through, Tala stayed true to her roots. She didn't look for approval or affection from outsiders. Still, there was something about Jack that made her feel a pull, a quiet curiosity that she couldn't explain. One evening, as Jack rested by the campfire outside his small cabin, Tala decided to approach him. She had watched him for days from a distance, wondering if this cowboy might be the one who could see her, truly see her. It wasn't the kind of thing she usually allowed herself to think about, but her heart felt lighter at the thought of him. With careful hands, Tala picked a single wildflower from the nearby meadow. It was simple but beautiful, a soft, bright flower that seemed to glow in the last light of day. She had learned from her people that flowers like these weren't just gifts. They carried meaning. This flower in her culture was a proposal, an offering to a man, a request for him to join her in marriage. For Tala, it wasn't just a gesture of affection. It was an invitation to share a life together. She had grown up hearing the stories of how her ancestors used flowers to ask for companionship, how the bond between a man and a woman was sacred. She wanted to give Jack something that would show him how serious she was, how much she believed in the bond they could have. But when she walked up to him and handed him the flower, her heart raced. Jack took the flower with a smile, his usual charming grin spreading across his face. "Well, that's mighty kind of you," he said, admiring the delicate bloom in his hand. "Thank you." Tala froze for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. But as Jack turned the flower over in his hands, admiring it like a simple gift, Tala felt a strange sinking feeling in her stomach. He didn't understand. He didn't see what she had meant. To him, it was just a flower, nothing more. She stood there for a moment, unsure what to do. She had given him everything she had, everything her people believed in, and he didn't even realize what it meant. She wanted to speak, to explain, but the words caught in her throat. She didn't want to seem desperate. She didn't want to force something that wasn't meant to be. So instead of saying anything, she quietly turned and walked away. Jack watched her retreating figure, feeling a strange pull in his chest. He wasn't sure why, but something about Tala left him unsettled. He had seen her around town, but he hadn't given her much thought until now. He glanced down at the flower in his hand again. It was beautiful, yes, but it wasn't like the gifts the women in town would give him. Those were simple, flirtatious tokens. This one felt different somehow, but he couldn't quite put his finger on why. The next day, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Tala's gift than he understood. He carried the flower with him, unsure what to do with it. His thoughts kept drifting back to the way she had looked at him, the quiet hope in her eyes. There was something about her that intrigued him, something that made him want to know more. Over the next few days, Jack kept an eye on Tala, trying to piece together the puzzle of their encounter. He started asking around, casually inquiring about the ways of the Apache people. He learned that a flower like the one she had given him was not just a simple gift, but a proposal, a gesture that meant she wanted him to marry her. The realization hit him hard. He had taken the flower without understanding its true meaning. He had unknowingly accepted a proposal, and now Tala was probably thinking he had rejected her. Jack cursed under his breath, feeling guilty. How could he have been so oblivious? He had just accepted the flower like any other trinket. He never imagined it could be so serious, so meaningful. The more he thought about it, the more he realized how important Tala was to him. He had been so focused on his own life that he hadn't taken the time to understand her. Jack knew he had to make things right. He had to find Tala to explain himself. But as he prepared to go to her, he felt a mixture of excitement and fear. What if she didn't want to talk to him anymore? What if his mistake had ruined everything? But he couldn't let that stop him. He had to try. Jack took a deep breath, holding the flower in his hand. He was ready to face the consequences of his ignorance. The question was, would Tala accept his apology, or had he lost her forever? As the sun began to set over the plains, Jack mounted his horse and rode out toward the Apache camp, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and uncertainty.